Morning, guys. We're working on this final stages in economics, and the concepts we're going to be covering are absolute and comparative advantage. And we're going to be doing our World Trade Project as a way to work hands-on to see how this plays out. So you've already defined what absolute and what comparative advantages are, and I'm going to go over the concepts behind them and how they will impact, and we'll demonstrate that with our world through our global trade project. So let's begin. All right, so first of all, we're looking at trade. And one of the things, and one of the trends that we're always looking at trends, it's like, here's a trend that's important. No, the world is still is in a very unique place. But over the period of time from 1985 to 2030, the projections of the global poverty rate, you can see, is precipitously declining. One of the reasons that this is occurring is the global economy. I mean, the economy is, and countries' economies are reaching beyond their borders and producing products and goods for the entire population, like 9 billion people on this planet. You can see this when it comes to this virus, when we're talking about PPE coming from all over the world, ventilators coming from all over the world, drugs coming from all over the world. We are in a global environment. And the advantages of this is we are seeing a decline in poverty, which is good for the world. We're nowhere near close to being able to solve that problem, but we're moving in the right direction. So we're going to be looking at comparative advantage. Now, two people, it's like a way of thinking this is like, I know not everybody's an athlete or cares about sports, but Bo Jackson was a stud. He could play baseball, he could play basketball, he was a track runner. He had an absolute advantage in almost everything that he did. Did it make sense? Yes. He just could do it better than everyone else. Michael Jordan, if you're watching The Last Dance, could do it better than everyone else. So that's an absolute advantage. You can do it faster and cheaper than anyone else, or better. So keep that in mind for an absolute advantage. So an absolute advantage is the ability of an individual to carry out a particular economic activity efficiently, better than an individual or group. Comparative advantage is producing or selling by an individual or country if they're experiencing the lowest opportunity cost. It doesn't make sense for someone to have an absolute advantage in everything to try to do everything. If we say to the individual who can do anything well, has an absolute advantage, you do what you're absolutely the best at, like Michael Jordan. Don't play baseball, play basketball. Comparative advantage would then shift to the other places or other individuals. You paint houses, you play basketball. You can do both and you can do a better job, but it's better if you are to play basketball and I'll paint your house and you pay me. By doing that, we expand what is available for an economy. You're growing. That's David Ricardo. You already had done that. So we're going to move on. I'm trying to keep this short and sweet. Now, remember, we did our flowchart on the economy. The economies are, how do I meet all the unlimited wants and needs of an individual using scarce resources? The law of scarcity, the economic problem. We want it all, but we can't have it all. Capitalism makes that decision. It's an economic system that we're using to determine allocation. Who gets what? And it also determines who does what. This is opportunity cost. So it doesn't make sense if I have an absolute advantage. It doesn't make sense for me to try to do everything, even though I can. It makes sense that I concentrate on things that I can excel at. And that means the opportunity cost is I'm not going to do other things. But other people who are not as good as that can do that. And we've lowered the opportunity cost, the cost to actually produce a good, which leads to actual more production. So keep in mind all of the things that we've started. We're coming back in full circle to understand an economy. That brings us to a new concept, the production possibility frontier, the PPF. You as an individual, if you work at 100%, or forget that, you're special, you work at 110%, you're only able to work for 24 hours. The possibility of your production is limited. So even if you're maximizing that every day, how do we get beyond that? How do we grow beyond just the individual possibility of each individual? How do we maximize and produce more or generate more? That's this. So we're getting into the economics of comparative advantage. So you have country A, which can make 30 million cars, which is the blue line, and you have trucks. So if they wanted to, they can make 30 million cars, or they could make 6 million trucks. But they have to choose. They have to allocate, what are we making? They can either make 30 million cars, which means 0 trucks, or they can make 6 million trucks and 0 cars. So you could settle, if I did 15 million cars, we could make 3 million trucks. Now you have country B. Country B is producing 21 million, is able to produce 21 million trucks and 35 million cars. So they would make those decisions. So who should produce cars and who should produce trucks? Who has the advantage? Well, if you just have country B produce only trucks, that's 21 million trucks. If you have country A only produce cars, that's 30 million cars. Now we're going to lose 5 million cars between the two of them, but we're going to be gaining in trucks. So we're going to increase the amount that we can produce. The possibility frontier can be pushed. You can push forward the production possibility, and you can push it forward in a number of different ways. Why would we shift outward the PPF? Well, you can increase the amount of resources. You can increase the amount of labor from another country. So the United States has a maximum number of people who can work. Once we have 100% unemployment, we can no longer increase production unless we push that production offshore to another country, which has a huge advantage in people, like China with 1.4 billion people. They become a place where we produce. And we're seeing the impact of that if they're experiencing the same historic event, that production drops when we become in these supply bottlenecks develop. You can expand and create new land resources, you can increase capital, and you can increase the PPF with technology. Have more and more of the production done by machines, which machines are faster, they work 24/7, they don't have days off, they don't have to worry about holidays, and so on and so on. But this is how we expand the economy. We don't trade because of, oh, it's just a great idea and isn't this wonderful. We trade because it is advantageous for both parties to trade. And what you're looking at is, like, you want to make sure that you are producing the thing that you're the best at. So I have 2 videos on here that you can watch, one on the opportunity curve and one on the possibility production curve. And you can use those to understand what is happening and how this works. I'll highlight it with this one graph here. Okay, so here you see the United States and Mexico. We have the same thing, trucks and computers. And the United States can produce and consume without trade. We're going to just do it by ourselves, A. So if we're at A, we're going to produce 3 million trucks and 4 million computers. If we do it at B, we produce with trade, we're going to produce 1 million trucks and 8 million computers. C is where we're going to consume. So you can see C is off the curve, off the production possibility frontier, and the consumption frontier, because of trade, is leading to an increase in demand to meet the production coming out of Mexico. Mexico would go and produce 4 million trucks and only 2 million computers. By them maximizing where they have a comparative advantage, and the United States can maximize its production on what it has an advantage to do. Even though it could do both, it makes more sense for the United States to concentrate on computers, and it makes sense for Mexico to just build trucks. You'll see this all throughout the world. And as you look at your countries, you're starting to realize, I want you to see and compare them to population. I want you to understand their advantages. I want you to understand where they have strengths. And think of it this way. China, what are their advantages? The country's been growing and expanding since the 1980s. It's really quite an amazing phenomenon. And they didn't accomplish it by themselves. The other industrialized countries have been bringing them into the market and providing them with expertise and helping them facilitate this growth. Why? Because it expands the production possibility frontier. It expands the potential for the United States to export and sell products, which makes our economy grow and expand. So as you do your research on your country, keep this concept in mind. There's an absolute advantage. The United States could make all of these things, or it could trade, mutually share. We do this because we're really good at it. You do this because it's something you can do, and we can increase the production, and we can increase the amount of goods imported and sold. That is why we are seeing, it's not just saying, well, just be a capitalist country. We're seeing this precipitous drop in global poverty because countries, as their economies grow and expand, you're seeing this again in this environment. When the economies slow and contract, you have 20% unemployment. That's not a good thing. And you realize how many people in our lives are dependent upon the economies and systems that we have put in place. So this is why we're doing the project, and this is a quick review of absolute and comparative advantage. I'm hoping you're having a great morning. When you finish this project, remember, if you want to stay with me out to May 27th, 29th, I have it all planned out on the student actions, or you can go ahead and work as a team. And when you're done and you submit, I'll edit and I'll grade. If you're satisfied, you are done. All right. I look forward to talking to you guys later. Bye.